The bet that made Buffett rich began with a $150 million fraud, one that should have killed the stock. In 1963, a con man sank American Express with tanks of ocean water. The company that everyone was fleeing became his largest bet ever, and he checked whether the panic was real by walking into a diner. Tonight you learn the checkable-moat method that made him a fortune. First, the crime that started it all. By the numbers, or you get wiped out, plain on the page. A trader named Tino De Angelis ran a huge vegetable oil business. He borrowed money against tanks he swore were full of salad oil. But oil floats on water, so he filled the tanks with the sea. Inspectors dipped the top, saw oil, and signed off, fooled. On paper he owned a fortune. In truth he owned an ocean, and you are left broke. The wealth that he pledged as collateral did not even exist. Now here's where American Express walks into the trap. A small Amex unit had certified those fake oil receipts. When the fraud broke, Amex looked liable for $150 million. That number could have bankrupted the whole company. The scandal that DeAngelis caused now threatened a giant. Wall Street panicked, and the stock was cut roughly in half. From about $60 a share down toward $35 in weeks. Everyone assumed the brand was finished for good, a mistake that will cost you dearly. The crash that terrified the crowd was Buffett's invitation. Now here's the question that separated him from the panic. He asked one thing nobody else stopped to ask. Did the fraud actually damage the real business itself? The loss was on the balance sheet, a one-time wound or you go bankrupt in the ledger's red ink. But the franchise was the cards, the checks, the trust. And a warehouse fraud had nothing to do with any of that. The damage that scared everyone was money, not the moat. So he set out to check the moat with his own eyes on the account page. Now here's the method that makes this story legendary, and the fees ate the rest. It is called scuttlebutt, and anyone can do it. Buffett went to restaurants across Omaha at dinner time. He stood at the register and simply watched people pay. Were they still pulling out their American Express cards? They were, exactly as before, without a flicker of doubt, and you never recovered. He asked banks if travelers still bought the checks. They did, in the same steady numbers as always. The customers had not heard of or did not care about the fraud. The loyalty that the scandal was supposed to break was untouched. Now feel what he had just proven with his own feet, or you get wiped out. The $150 million loss was a bill painful but survivable. The brand behind the cards was the real priceless asset, and that asset was still intact, still earning, still loved. The market had confused a one-time bill with a dying business. The mistake that the crowd made was Buffett's whole opportunity, and you are left broke. Now here's how boldly he acted on that certainty. He put about 40% of his partnership into Amex, roughly $13 million, his largest position ever. He concentrated hard because his evidence was rock solid. Diversification is a hedge against not knowing what you own, a mistake that will cost you dearly. He knew exactly what he owned, so he bet big. The conviction that his own legwork earned let him pounce where the chart turns red. Now here's how the story paid off in the end. American Express paid the claims and settled the mess. The brand never wavered, and the profits kept rolling in, or you go bankrupt. Over the next few years, the stock multiplied several times over. Buffett's bold, checked bet became one of his early triumphs. The fortune that others fled from, he calmly walked toward. Now here's the method distilled into something you can use. When a crisis smashes a stock, split the damage in two, and the fees ate the rest. On one side, the one-time balance sheet wound under a dark ceiling. On the other, the living franchise that earns the money. Ask whether the crisis actually touched the franchise at all. The wound that heals is survivable. The wound to the moat is not. Now here's the part that makes the moat truly checkable, and you never recovered. Do not just read about the brand, go and watch it work. Stand where the customers are and see if they still show up in the gold lamplight. Count the cards, the receipts, the loyal repeat buyers. A moat you can verify on the street is a moat you can trust. The evidence that you gather yourself is worth more than any rumor, or you get wiped out. Everything here comes from the investing classics linked below as the red ink dries. Listen to them free with the Audible trial in the description. Now here's a challenge you can run this week. Pick one brand you own or love and go watch it in the wild. Count how many people still choose it without a second thought, and you are left broke on a gray page. Ask if a recent scare actually changed their behavior at all. Comment what your own eyes told you about that moat. Guess whether the panic in the news matched the panic in the shop. Now here's the trap this method helps you avoid plain on the page. Not every crash is a hidden bargain waiting for you, a mistake that will cost you dearly. Sometimes the crisis really does destroy the franchise itself. The scuttlebutt check is exactly how you tell the two apart. The panic that hides a bargain looks just like the one that hides ruin in the ledger's red ink. Only real evidence on the ground can separate them. Now picture two investors facing the same falling stock, or you go bankrupt. One reads the scary headline and runs with the crowd. The other walks into a diner and counts the cards on the account page. One sold the moat at half price, the other bought it. The difference was a pair of shoes and an honest question. Now here's the deeper principle the whole story rests on, and the fees ate the rest. The loss that lands on the balance sheet heals over time, where the chart turns red. The loss that lands on the brand almost never heals at all. So the only question that matters is which one a crisis struck. The wound that scares the headlines is rarely the fatal one. Now here's where this method was actually born, and you never recovered under a dark ceiling. Philip Fisher named this legwork scuttlebutt decades ago. He urged investors to interview customers, rivals, and suppliers. The habit that Fisher named turns you into a detective. You gather evidence the crowd is far too lazy to collect. The truth that you walk out and find is the truth that pays, or you get wiped out in the gold lamplight. Now see how the same test works on a modern panic. A recall, a data breach, a lawsuit smashes a stock overnight. Ask the same question Buffett asked in that Omaha diner. Did customers actually stop buying, or just keep going? If the buyers stay, the franchise is likely still intact and you are left broke. The headline that terrifies the market often means nothing to the customer. Now here's why concentration only works with proof as the red ink dries. Buffett bet 40% because his evidence was overwhelming. Without that legwork, such a bet would be reckless gambling. Proof earns the right to concentrate. A hunch never does a mistake that will cost you dearly. The size of the bet should match the strength of the evidence. The conviction that legwork buys is the conviction worth acting on a gray page. Now step back and hold the whole method in one view. Separate the one-time loss from the living franchise. Then go check the moat where the customers actually are, or you go bankrupt. Bet big only when your own eyes confirm the story plain on the page. The moat you can verify is the moat you can safely buy. Run this before every crisis buy, and fear loses its grip. Subscribe, and each day brings one more method the pros guard. Master the checkable moat, and a panic becomes your best friend, and the fees ate the rest in the ledger's red ink. Now you decide what we build next together. Vote A for the Medallion mystery, the fund that beat every rule. Vote B for the balance sheet triage, 3 lines that veto a stock. The comments choose, and I teach the winner tomorrow on the account page. Until then, remember the diner where Buffett proved the moat, and you never recovered. A 150 million fraud, a 40% bet, and a moat he checked himself.